The series begins in 1968 in a hotel on the sea in the city of Marsa, and we see the receptionist working in the hotel, and suddenly he leaves his job in the hotel, so he leaves his work and goes to the sea and comes out with a sharp instrument and cuts his face with it until he dies, and after a while we see a young man who came to the hotel to propose to me. He introduces himself and says that his name is Jamal and that he is from Damenhauer and came to work and settle in the city of Marsa. Michael asks him about his work experience. Jamal says that he worked for 5 years as a receptionist in Damenhauer and that he speaks 3 languages, including Italian. Jamal asks him for a period of time to find accommodation, but Michael reassures him and tells him that they live in the hotel staff, so Jamal rejoices and says that he is ready to start work today. A young man named Mustafa comes and he is one of the hotel workers. The room next to him, and Jamal notices that Mustafa treats him with restraint, but he does not understand the reason, and then Jamal arranges his clothes when he puts them in the closet, so the ring of his clothes falls off, and he wonders how it came here, but he does not care. One of the hotel employees, his name is Mostramina, and one of the female workers named Abir enters him and asks him if Jamal the employee knows the truth, but he ignores her question and orders her to go. And then we see that a new customer arrives at the hotel, and we know that her name is Dr. Shireen Hosni, and she was previously booked. He recognized him as the number 207, and Jamal notices that she knows all the details of the hotel, so Shireen tells him that she has come to this hotel a lot and that she will come more. He stands in front of the sea drinking a cigar, so Jamal notices that Dr. Shireen is looking at him with concentration, so he ignores her and goes to complete his work, so Shireen calls him on the hotel phone and tells him that there is a problem in the room that he must solve. Jamal asks her, "Your medical specialist?" Shireen tells him that she is a psychiatrist and loves her job very much. In order for Shireen to prove to Gamal that she is a skilled doctor and cares about details, Shireen tells Gamal that he has experience in reception and that you are new in the hotel because I waited for you for a short period since I did not find the room key. They are separated now, so Jamal is surprised and asks her, "How did you know that?" So Shireen replies and says that the place of the ring left a mark on his finger, and when I said the word that you are married, I noticed that you are annoyed, and that is why I guessed that you were divorced. But Jamal does not talk to him, and in the evening Jamal returns to his room and finds his ring on the nightstand beside the bed, so he is very surprised because he is sure that he put it in the jacket inside the bag. In another place, we see an old man named Fozzie, and he is sitting with a psychiatrist, and he tells the doctor about his problem, and he says Fozzie, since the day of the accident that happened to him inside this room, he dreams nightmares every day, and the same lady comes to him every day, takes him to the same room, and tells the doctor to try all the methods that you said, and to try to write everything down as soon as he wakes up, so that he does not forget. The methods failed, and we know that Fozzie was in the Marsa Hotel, specifically in room 207, on a day, and anything strange affected him so much that he lost his memory, and he was unable to remember what happened inside the room, and he was also unable to remember his family, but since then he has had nightmares and is unable to live his life. And we go back to Jamal, and he is going to Michael's office, the owner of the hotel, and Michael asks him, "Do you feel tired and have you seen anything strange?" It is natural that the owner of the hotel reassures you, especially after what happened with the receptionist who used to work before him, so Jamal is surprised and asks him what happened to the employee, so Mustafa gets nervous and says that Michael is noisy in the hotel, and he assured us that no one should talk about the issue of the previous employee, and then Jamal returns to his work and finds Drive Shireen coming. From the outside, Jamal is surprised that she went out without him seeing her, so Shireen says that she is used to waking up early and goes out, so Shireen asks him if we will meet today, so Jamal gets nervous and does not understand what you mean, and he says that he is here if you need anything, do not hesitate to contact me, and after a while he goes to Shireen's room and begins to know her. He tells her that he loves to read very much, but suddenly Shireen changes the subject and tells him that she knew about Gamal's betrayal of his wife, Sasan, and that at first they betrayed her out of boredom, but the topic became addictive and he could not stop. With your betrayal, she asked for a divorce, so Jamal gets very nervous and asks her to change the subject, but Shireen tells him that they are looking for you in your office and that she should go. Indeed, when Jamal comes down and goes to his office, he finds Mina standing in his place, and Mina yells at him because he left his job a long time ago, so Jamal interrupts him and tries to understand that he left the office for a few minutes only, but Jamal is surprised that hours have passed, and Mina threatens him, "If you don't care about your work, we will expel you, and someone else will come," and then Jamal goes to his room, so he is surprised when he finds Shireen waiting for him inside, and she will come to continue her talk about his wife Sasan, but Jamal shouts at her and says if anyone knows that you are in my room will cause him problems, so Shireen ignores him and continues her conversation and says that Sasan could not stay away from you, Jamal, nor your betrayal of her, so she decided to commit suicide, so Jamal was shocked and opened the door to the room and was going to kick her out, but he finds that Shireen has disappeared, so Jamal doubts that it was he imagines that at the same time, Mustafa calls on Jamal's loud voice and asks him who you are talking to, but Jamal is shocked and does not answer him. Jamal learns from Mustafa that the receptionist who used to work before him committed suicide and that no one knows what caused his suicide. The next day, Jamal goes to the central and calls Sasan, his ex-wife, to check on her, but she does not answer him, and also his family, Sasan, does not respond to Jamal, so Jamal calls a friend of his to go to his ex-wife's house to check on her and reassure Jamal, and then we see Mustafa and he walks in the hotel, so he is surprised when he finds a door room number 207 is open, and he hears the sound of the taps being open, so Mustafa enters to close it, and then he leaves the room, and while he is outside, the door of the room closes on him, and he is locked in it, and suddenly he hears Mina and Jamal, Mustafa's voice, as he screams loudly, so they go to him quickly, and they find Mustafa sitting in the street, shocked and crying, so they take him to his room, but after for a while, Mustafa talks and says that he saw a nightmare inside a room of 207, and how Jamal tries to forgive, but Mina manages the matter and asks them not to tell anyone about what happened, and that if Khawaja knows or Mustafa enters this room, he will kick him out, and then Mina goes and leaves him, so Jamal finds the opportunity and asks Mustafa about what happened inside the room, but Mustafa is shocked and does not talk, and the next day Jamal stands at the reception, and Shireen calls him and says to Jamal, if you are interested, you know what happened with Mustafa. She comes to him in the room, and Jamal goes to the room, and when he enters the room, he finds that the decoration of the room has changed, and as soon as he enters the bedroom, he finds his ex-wife, Sasan, standing in the room. He discovers that he went back in time to his happy day with Sasan, and as soon as he gets out of the place, he finds himself in another place, but this time in a restaurant with Sasan, and we notice that their relationship began to become tense, and suddenly he finds Shireen standing in front of him, so he walks after her and finds himself back in time to the day when Sasan discovered his betrayal and asked the divorce, and then, suddenly, he finds himself in the bathroom, and he is shocked when he finds Sasan committing suicide. Shireen suddenly comes to him and intends to make Jamal feel remorse. She tells Jamal that Sasan, before she died, was asking herself why Jamal didn't love me. Then, Shireen holds Jamal's head and tries to drown him in the bathtub, after which Jamal wakes up from the nightmare. He is surprised that Shireen is sleeping on the floor, committing suicide, and then he sees Sasan trying to commit suicide, and she asks Jamal why she left me, so Jamal leaves the room terrified, and Mina comes to Jamal to check on him. So Jamal tries to tell him that Liz is the reason for killing her, so Mina takes him to the room again to prove to him that the room is empty and that everyone who saw him was prepared, and we understand that there was no person named Shireen who booked the room, and that everything that happened was a fantasy in Jamal's mind, and then Jamal tells everything that happened with him to Mina. So Mina says that the room was making you witness one of the nightmares of the room and nothing more, and we know from Mina that there is no one he knows the secret of the room, and that there are a group of people who see that this room is cursed, and other people in a group that you see that the room takes you to a place that no one can go to, and we also know that there are many people who entered the room and nothing happened to them, but there are certain other people the room required them, but did not let them come back to life once again. Jamal learns from Mustafa that the receptionist who used to work before him committed suicide and that no one knows what caused his suicide. At the same time, a call comes to Jamal from Sasan, who divorced him after she found out that he was looking for her. He apologizes to her for everything that happened to her because of him, but Sasan does not accept his apology and hangs up the phone. On the second day, another client comes to the hotel. Surprisingly, her name is Dr. Shireen Hosni, and she is surprised that Gamal knows her well, but Mina says that because she is a famous doctor, Shireen asks for a room of 107, and she does not want to take another. The doctor who is supervising his treatment, and we know that she is in his last session with him, and tells him that she tried all the solutions with him and failed. She asked Fawzi to hypnotize him in order to help him regain his memory of what happened in the room. After that, she actually starts the hypnosis, but as soon as Fawzi goes to the hotel with his imagination, remember what happened. It happened to him and he was so shocked that he had panic attacks and he kept bleeding until he died. We return to the hotel and see Jamal telling Mina about everything he saw in the nightmare, except that Shireen, who appeared to him, is different from the one inside the hotel, and then they hear the voice of one of the workers in the hotel, and her name is Medea, and she is screaming, so they gather around her and know that she was in room 207, so when they enter they are shocked that Dr. Shireen committed suicide in the bathtub, and an ambulance comes to remove her body, and we discover that the room left Jamal to see what will happen. The next morning, Jamal thinks of leaving the hotel, but he does not have another place to live. Samina reassures him and says that he has been working in the hotel for years and that he is happy with his work. He sees it all around him. And then we see Abir and Mustafa after they saw a strange mark on Jamal's arms, so Jamal says while he is nervous that it is an old accident and remembers Jamal his past. Planned it. On that day, his mother told him not to sit while reading in front of the window so that he would not fall again. On the same day, we notice that Jamal's father was not affected by what happened to Jamal. Jamal wakes up from his memories, and we know that he was very affected by this incident and cannot forget it. After a while, a family consisting of a father, a mother, 2 children, and a mother's sister arrives at the hotel. They ask for 2 rooms. When Jamal notices that there is only one empty room, the cursed room number 207, he fears for them and says that there is only one room. But the wife, Magda, hints at the key to the room, 207. There is maintenance, but they insist on it and say that it is a room 1 is not enough, so Jamal is forced to agree because he has no other solution. We know that the child Ayman and the aunt whose name is Fatima will sleep in room number 207, and the father Rafat and the mother Magda and their son named Akmal will sleep in the second room. Michael, the owner of the hotel, is happy when he learns that room number 207 has been booked, so Jamal asks him why didn't you close it despite all these rumors that we hear about the room. Al-Khawaja says that if he closes the room, he will confirm the rumors and the hotel's reputation will be affected, and then the child will go out to play with his ball in the hallway in front of the door of his room. He will be happy when he finds another child of the same age who has a blue ball and asks the child continues that they are playing together, so the child agrees, but after a while, a complaint comes from a guest in the hotel, and he asks that they silence the children who are playing, so Jamal is surprised because there is only one child, and he continues. When Jamal goes up, he sees another child, so Jamal runs after him to ask him where he came from, but suddenly the child disappears in front of him, as if he was not there. Jamal is terrified and asks Akmal who is this child, but Akmal is terrified and does not answer him, and Rafat, Akmal's father, comes and yells at his son because he broke the lamp, and tells Jamal that he will pay for it and end the problem. And then we see Rafat telling his family to get ready because they are going out on a picnic together, but Fatima refuses and says that she wants to sleep, and then immediately Akmal decides that he will not go with them and stay with his aunt. He cares about his father's words, and as soon as his family goes, Akmal jumps on his aunt's balcony, and we notice that he saw something strange that caused him a shock, and after a while, Jamal sees Akmal sitting crying, so he takes him to Mina's office to talk to him, and they notice that the boy is trembling with fear, so they try to reassure him, so he tells the fullest thing he saw and says Kufth on the balcony of his aunt's room to joke with him and say that her lips were sitting on the floor and putting a lot of candles on collect, but suddenly the candle was extinguished and a black ghost appeared from the smoke, and its shape was terrifying, and he continued further and said that if he was terrified and afraid, he would run so that the ghost would not catch him, but from his fear he cried loudly and then the ghost he kept looking at him, and since then he did not remember anything. Samina tries to reassure him and tells him that the curtain was definitely the one that was moving because of the air, and he was terrifying him and nothing more. Then he takes Jamal the child to his father, Rafat, so he thanks Jamal and tells him that the father of Shore was imagining because of the horror stories that his aunt told him, and we know that Rafat he does not love Fatima, but she decided that she would come with them, so he had to take her. Rafat continues and says that Fatima has gone crazy because she has grown old and has not yet married, and her behavior has become strange. We notice that Jamal is the only one who believes that the child he saw in the room, so Jamal decides to go back to Mina and tell him about the strange child. Whoever saw him on the road, he tells Mina that we should fear for the faith of Akmal's sister, because she is sleeping with her aunt in the room. The next morning, Magda comes with her children to Jamal and tells him that she will go to the sea and that her husband preceded her there, so Jamal takes advantage of the opportunity and goes out to their room and through the balcony goes to room number 207 to see what Fatima is doing, but suddenly he sees Rafat cheating on his wife with her sister, so Jamal is terrified and he goes quickly. In order to tell Mina what is happening, Mina tells him that they must act as if they did not see anything for the sake of privacy, so he guesses that when he completed what his aunt knew, He found his father with his aunt, so he continued, he was shocked, and his mind imagined a different story for him in order to protect him from the shock, but Jamal sees that what he is doing Rafat and Fatima are among the actions of the cursed room, and that the room is intended to make them close to each other. After a while, we see Fatima as she is going to talk to Jamal, and she knows that if he saw her with Rafat, she would threaten him. And in the evening, we see Akmal playing alone in the road, and suddenly he finds the blue ball in front of him, and then the door to his room, 207, opens by himself, and he becomes more afraid and does not understand what is happening, and after a while, Jamal wakes up to the sound of crying, and when Jamal goes downstairs, he discovers that Akmal is missing, and they searched for him for a long time, and they did not. Someone finds him. Samina suggests that they search for him at the beach, so they drag all of them there, but Jamal has a different opinion, and he goes to the 207 rooms, and there he notices that the drawing on the wall has changed, and we see the picture that the new picture shows Fatima sitting on the floor and a lot of candles around her. So Jamal is sure that what Akmal said was true, and at the same time the blue ball appears in front of him and is thrown from the balcony and goes to the child, so Jamal guesses that the room wants to take him to a fuller place, so he walks after the child until Jamal reaches a store next to the hotel, and there he finds Akmal sleeping on the floor and killed, and suddenly someone comes from behind Jamal, hits him on his head, and after a while, Jamal wakes up and finds himself tied to the pole, and he gets shocked when he meets Fatima and Rafat in front of him, and he understands that they are the ones who killed Akmal and they did that to him. Fatima controls him and makes him kill his son. Fatima tells her story, and we know that she is jealous of her sister Magda because she is more beautiful than her, and he used to bring her more grooms than her, and that is why she did not love her sister. Fatima says that she made an agreement with the chamber, which is that she will give her Rafat Maqbal, that she will take any payment she wants, and Jamal understands that the return as it was complete, and Jamal was very affected by what he heard. And Rafat carries his son's body and walks, and Fatima puts gasoline around Jamal, and he starts a fire and goes away, but suddenly the little boy appears to Jamal and leaves him a knife and goes, so Jamal takes it to free himself and goes out quickly before the place explodes and runs to the hotel quickly, and there he confesses to them that Rafat killed his son, so Mustafa shocks him and tells him to continue. Selim returned, but the one who died was his mother after she entered the sea to search for her son. He continued until she drowned and died, so Jamal is shocked and not satisfied. What is the meaning of what he saw? So Al-Khawaja threatens him that he will send him back if he tells anything to the police, and then the family prepares their bags and leaves the hotel, but before he goes, he continues, he directs his words to Jamal and says that he is the reason for everything that is happening, so Jamal understands that whoever stands in front of him is not complete, but the real one is dead. And then Jamal remembers the day he was with his father in the hospital, but that day Jamal's father dealt with him harshly, and we know that the day Jamal fell from the window, and his father was the one who threw him out of the window because his father wanted to get rid of him, and he remembers Jamal all of this and collapsed. Then we go to Michael, the owner of the hotel, and he is sitting in his office flipping through his memories papers. He comes up with a picture that he kept, and Khawaja Michael appears in it when he was a child, and with him the little boy with the blue ball who used to appear in the hotel, and we understand that Khawaja knows who this child is. And after a few days, we see a girl named Sarah, and she enters the hotel and goes to Michael, the owner of the hotel, by chance. At the same time, Jamal walks in front of the office, and he notices his colleagues while they are standing in front of the office, so Jamal asks them why you are standing like this. He was with him at the reception, and they wanted to know whether she would work with them or not, and then Mina would see them and order them to go to work in the evening. The man is surprised by his question, and it turns out that he did not notice a strange thing that happened to him. Jamal asks him about his name, so he responds and says that his name is Dr. Rafat Ismail, and tomorrow he finishes all his papers. He goes, and then the new employee named Sarah comes to welcome Jamal and tells him that she has accepted the job, and tomorrow she will stand with him at the reception, so he will be happy. Jamal is very impressed, and it appears that he likes her, and the next day Jamal prepares to break his fast at the sea as usual, but Huda tells him that Sarah will break her fast in the kitchen with them, so Jamal immediately changes his mind, goes to break the fast with her, and apologizes to Sarah if he will stop her from reading the novel, but she says that she can read it sometime and shows that she also likes it and she begins to tell him about herself, and tells her that she came from Alexandria and decided to live in Marsa Matruh after she saw the beauty and calmness of the country, so Jamal talks to her about himself and tells her that he came from Damanhur, and then Jamal notices that Sarah is reading a novel by the writer Agatha Christie, so Sarah says that she loves puzzles and loves to know the solution. She also says that she focuses on the details and does not leave anything out, even if it is small, and to assure him that she cares about the details, even if they are small. She consults him about the wound on his face, and Sarah guesses that he cut himself while he was shaving because he was in a hurry and she wants to break the fast with me, and she also tells him that she knows that Huddy is a curious person, and for sure Huddy will ask you what we are talking about. Actually, the first time Sarah walks, Huddy comes and asks him what you are talking about, and after a while we see Jamal and Sarah standing in the reception, so Shireen calls him and asks him to come to her room immediately, so Sarah notices that Jamal is tense, so he refuses to tell her anything, and Jamal goes to me room 207, and there Shireen will be waiting for him, and Shireen asks him a strange question, and she says what does a person do for the person he loves, and suddenly, before Jamal can speak, Shireen disappears, and suddenly she appears again in front of him, wearing a white veil, and she tells him to get ready because the room is prepared for him a new riddle, and Shireen says that you must solve the riddle about the way you focus on the details, and then you talk about Sarah, so Jamal yells at her and tells her to stay away from Sarah, and I will not tell her about what is happening inside this room. He tells him and says that if Michael, the owner of the hotel, asked about the room, she would tell him that it was reserved, and that he would pay for it from his own salary and then go. Then we see the workers cleaning the rooms, and Medea says that Mr. Mina is sure that none of the workers enter alone to clean the room. They must be at least 3 people, and Mr. Mina will be with us, but Huda is curious about what is inside the room, so she lies to Medea and tells her that she is going to come. Towel and she walks slowly to the room 207 and enters to explore it. She is surprised that there is a magazine on a bed. As soon as she opens the magazine, a silver ring falls from it under the bed. We go back to Jamal, and he is thinking about the next crime, so Sarah notices that Jamal is tired, so she says that we will finish work soon, and only the groom and the bride will be detained for a long time, so Jamal realizes that when Shireen was warning him, she was wearing a veil, so he concludes that the next crime will have something to do with the newlyweds, and while Jamal is thinking about what it will happen when the newlyweds arrive at the hotel, and we notice that the bride covers her entire face with the veil, and also does not speak a word. The groom introduces them himself, and says that his name is Muhammad and his wife is called Maha al-Gandori, and he asks them for the key to the room that he booked, which is the room 207, but Jamal fears for him and tells him that the room has been booked and that he will book another bride for him. Muhammad starts shouting, and for some reason he clings to the room 207, and we notice that Sarah does not understand why Jamal does not give him the key. At the same time, Mr. Mina enters them and gives the groom the key to the room 207 as he wanted, and then Mustafa notices that in front of a room of 207 there are traces of blood on the floor, so he informs Jamal and Mr. Mina of what he saw, so Jamal proposes that he knock on the door of the room's occupant and ask him about what is happening, but Mr. Mina refuses because they cannot cause disturbance to the customers. The next day, the reception phone rang, and Jamal answered. The caller, Muhammad the groom, asked them to bring him a large snowboard that sank. Jamal is surprised by his request. Despite that, he is forced to implement it, and when the worker goes out to deliver the ice, he notices that there is a foul smell coming out of the room, so Muhammad shouts at him and tells him not to interfere in people's privacy. And we return to Sarah while she is in Mr. Mina's office to give him a file. When she does not find Mr. Mina in the office, she takes advantage of the opportunity and steals the file of room 207 and runs to hide it. Then we see Jamal, and he decides to tell Mr. Mina about what Shireen told him inside the room, and he says that I am surprised because I asked him to solve the puzzle. And then we see his praise as she enters the store to get something from there, so she is surprised by me. Hedda sits alone in the dark, and when she tries to praise him, she asks her what she is doing here. She refuses to speak, walks away, and leaves her. And in the evening, Jamal sleeps on the couch out of fatigue, and suddenly he sees himself standing in a hospital in front of a patient sleeping on the bed, and suddenly the patient's hand comes out from under the blanket, and it becomes clear that the patient died. The second signal she sends for him to follow the crime, and Jamal comes to know who is sick. As soon as he lifts the lid, Muhammad the bridegroom comes out and gives him an injection. Jamal wakes up terrified and finds no explanation for the nightmare. The next morning, Muhammad enters Jamal at the reception and asks him for more ice cubes, and when Jamal asks what to do with all this snow, Muhammad refuses to tell him and leaves him and goes. After a while, Sarah arrives at work and asks Gamal and Mr. Mina to talk. She apologizes to Mr. Mina for stealing the file from his office, and that she discovered something strange, which is that the guest, Muhammad, is not the first time he comes to this hotel, but 4 years ago he was here and booked the same hotel, and every year he comes at the same time. With a new bride, he books the same room, and Jamal is very surprised, unlike Mr. Mina, who seems to know everything, but he is not interested in what Muhammad is doing. Sarah continues and says that since the time she found out the bride did not appear and did not speak, she was worried that Muhammad would beat her, especially since a nervous and barbaric person was visible. They have their first meeting, so Mr. Mina keeps her away from this topic, but Sarah is determined to know the truth. And then we see Sarah when she found out that Muhammad is out of the room, so Sarah goes to Muhammad's room and knocks on the door of his wife, Maha, and asks her, "Are you okay? Are you being hurt?" But Maha replies and tells her that she cannot open the door, and she also says that Muhammad is standing behind you, so Sarah gets terrified because Muhammad is already standing behind her and is suffocating. Muhammad is with Sarah because she did not hear his words and went to his room. At the same time, Jamal intervened to defend Sarah, so Muhammad hit him, so they all go to Michael, and I apologize to them for causing them inconvenience, and then Michael hurts his words to Sarah and Jamal, and asks them to stay away from this man because he is nervous. And after a while, a call comes to Sarah from Maha, begging her to go to her room, and despite Muhammad's warning to her, Sarah agrees that she will go out when she feels that Maha is in danger. At the same time, Jamal knew from his friend that Maha's mother had been confined to the hospital for a while. He went to the hospital to talk to the doctor who was responsible for her condition, and the doctor says that Maha tried to commit suicide before marriage because she hated Muhammad and did not want to marry him. We also know that Muhammad's first wife was named Nurman, and we know that he loved her very much, but she contracted cancer and died, and after that Muhammad was very affected, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not forget her. And a statement that Jamal was able to solve the puzzle, and he quickly returns to the hotel, and there he receives a call from Shireen, who knows that he is very late, so Jamal fears for Sarah, and he goes quickly to the room 207, and there inside the room he finds his master and concludes that she is Nurman, the first wife of Muhammad, and then Nurman looks at the bag and cries and says Muhammad he was forced to do that, and then Nurman turns into Shireen and tells him that even if he can save Sarah this time, you will not be able to save her in the next times, so Jamal understands what is happening and runs quickly to save Sarah, and finds that Muhammad put the knife on Sarah's neck after she tried to enter his room in his absence, so Jamal tries he absorbs his anger and tells him that he knew everything about him and also knew that he was affected by me and his wife Nurman's death. Therefore, when the room was offered to him, he offered to see Nurman one day in the year, which is the day of their wedding anniversary, so that he would come to the hotel at that time and book the same room and also sacrifice a new bride in exchange. To see Nurman for one more day, and we understand that the traces of blood that were in front of the room, because Muhammad, before coming to the hotel, killed his new wife, Maha, and kept her corpse in the bag, and that the bride they saw with him while he was inside the hotel the first time was just a new trick from the room to convince them that Maha she is still alive and maintains her agreement with Muhammad, but in fact, Muhammad was inside the hotel alone, so Muhammad is very affected when he remembers Nurman and he cries and lets Sarah go. Her corpse is in the bathtub, so he used to ask for a lot of ice in order to preserve the corpse for the longest time, and then the police would come and arrest Muhammad and take his wife's corpse. In the morning of the next day, Jamal tells Sarah everything he knew about the room, 207, so Sarah deduces that the room is the one who chooses to sacrifice herself, and she decides to go behind the secret of the room until she reveals her secret. And then we see Mr. Mina while he is inside his office, he finds the file of room 207 that fell on the floor, and it turns out that someone was flipping through the papers in the file. After that, Huda appears walking, but she is not conscious until she reaches the train station, and then she throws herself in front of the train and dies. We go to Michael, the owner of the hotel, and he is keeping the news of Muhammad's suicide, and we see him while he is preparing a complete file for the victims of room 207. The next day, Jamal arrives late at work and tells Sarah that he finds a job in another place far from this hotel. They agree that Sarah and Jamal work together, but with a lower salary. She goes with him in any way to get away from the cursed room, but Sarah embarrasses him and asks him why she speaks in the form of hello to the plural, as if we have a relationship. So Michael tells them that he wants to do maintenance and change the decor in room 207, and asks Jamal to stand with the workers, so the three of them try to object, but Michael interrupts them and does not allow anyone to speak. And after a while, the workers arrive, so Jamal lies to them and uses the wrong room key, and says that the key does not open, and suggests that they go to another room, but one of them says that the owner of the hotel is determined to work in this room specifically, and he uses the screwdriver that he has and succeeds in opening it, and then one of the workers asks Jamal about the changes they will make in the room, so Jamal tells them that they change everything in the room, even if it is small, and he believes that this will end its evil. Then a call comes to the room's phone, and when Jamal answers, he finds out that she is Shireen, and she disturbs him. She orders Jamal to take the workers and leave the room quickly, but Jamal challenges her and refuses to let them go out. And after a while they were working, one of the workers got hit in the eye, so he ran to wash it, and at this time all the windows started opening at the same time, so Jamal got very nervous and asked them to finish the work quickly, and one of the workers said that the electricity in the room had a problem, so he had to break the wall in order to solve it, and suddenly, a cat appears to them from inside the thread, so they wonder how that cat used to live between the wall, and then the worker feels something strange, so when he enters the work his hand to explore, he finds that it is the bones of a human hand, so they all get scared and stop working for the rest of the day. After a while, Sarah goes out to talk to Jamal, because she knew what happened, because she heard the worker talking to Mr. Mina. Sarah is surprised that the size of the hand is larger than normal. She tells him that there is a doctor named Salim, who is a guest in the hotel. They can consult him. Sarah takes Jamal and goes to Dr. Salim, and he is surprised. The doctor says that there is something strange, why this hand has not decomposed yet, and when Sarah asks him about an explanation for its large size, the doctor says that the person with the hand had a disease in the bones, and then Sarah goes. And Jamal tells the doctor about the place where he found the hand, and they guess who put it in this place as a person who killed this person and decided to hide it in order to prosecute his crime. And they conclude that the rest of the skeleton is definitely beside her. And Jamal stays for a while, like a sail, looking for the rest of the structure, but suddenly he sees the black cat jumping from the balcony of the room and going to Sarah, and it will be Sarah that she finished the work, but the cat attracts attention, so she follows Sarah, and suddenly the electricity is cut off from the hotel completely, and Jamal finds himself in the street, and he sees one of the workers killed in front of him, and when he concentrates, he finds in front of a tall person, and it appears that he killed the worker. Suddenly, Jamal wakes up and hears a bear trying to overtake Sarah after she lost consciousness, and Sarah tells them that she sent a tall man standing in front of her and wrote a word on the wall, and then he disappeared. When Mr. Mina consults someone in the photo album, the two confirm that he is that person. And we know that this man named Adam used to work in the hotel for a long time, and one day there were workers doing maintenance, and they started killing one and then another one, and when they began to suspect Adam that he was the killer, he immediately disappeared, so they thought that he ran away and left the hotel, and completes Mr. and Mina and says that the word written on the wall with her, "Return it to me, and you will conclude that this hand belongs to me, Adam, and he wants it." Sarah deduces that the room is trying to stop any renovation process that is happening in it, and that is why she kills the workers. She guesses that the room is the one that controlled Adam a long time ago and made him kill the workers, and then in someone who killed him and buried his body in the wall, and at the same time intervened. They praise him, and she tells them that they found the body of one of the workers killed, so they all get scared, and Jamal runs to Michael's desk and begs him to cover the cursed room after he tells him about what they found in the room. But Michael is determined on his opinion and orders Jamal to see other workers to complete the changes or to resign and leave the hotel. Jamal gets annoyed and has to go back to the room again, and he is surprised that one of the workers who used to work in the room, whose name is Shaban, has come back again, and Shaban says that he has to go back to work because he needs the money. So Jamal deduces that the painting changes its drawing according to the next crime, and he betrays that the next crime is Shaban, so he goes quickly and tells Mr. Mina and Sarah, and they decide that they will not leave Shaban alone and try to protect him, but suddenly the electricity is cut off. He has the bag, but surprisingly, when Jamal returns, he finds that Shaban has disappeared, and he finds the same word written on the electrical panel. The next day, they find the body of Shaban, who was killed and buried on the beach, so Jamal comes out to the room 207, and keeps shouting as if he is talking to the room and begging her to leave them and not kill anyone else, but someone calls him and says that they have a lot of work to do. Jamal collapses, and he is afraid of the cans of those he loves, and he breaks everything around him, and suddenly a human skull falls from the wall, and we know later that they found the whole body of Adam and took it to bury it. Then Jamal notices that the picture in the room has changed, but this time it is the one in the drawing. He is Mr. Mina personally, so he runs Jamal to shave to protect him, and Jamal takes Sarah and Mr. Mina and hides them in the kitchen, and at the same time the electricity is cut off from the entire hotel, and Mr. Mina tells him that if the room chooses him, no matter what they do, they will not be able to stop it, but Jamal is determined that they stay together so that no one gets hurt. Then Jamal takes a knife from the kitchen and goes quickly to chase Adam himself. At the same time, Jamal catches a glimpse of the black cat as it walks beside him, so he follows it until someone comes from behind him and hits him on the head. Dr. Salim reassures him and tells him that he has a suture for his wound, and asks Jamal to rest, and then he goes. Sarah starts hinting to Jamal that she likes him, but she asks him that they stay friends for this period, so Jamal agrees and shows that he is very happy. The next day, drive. Salim bids them farewell, because he is leaving the hotel, so Sarah notices that he forgot his personal bag, and she takes it quickly to catch up and give it to him, but she is surprised that the bag is very heavy. When she opens it, she is shocked when she finds sharp tools, and all the tools have blood on them. We don't know why he did that. And they go quickly to catch up with him before he goes, but at the same time the black cat rode with Selim and he went. And we know that Selim was the cause of all the murders, and that the room will also cover him, and that Mr. Mina will come to them and say that he finds something strange. So they go to the room 207, and find that everything in the room has returned as it was, as if they had not made any changes. Jamal notices that the picture inside the room changed again, and this time it was chosen by the picture of Dr. Selim. We go to Michael, the owner of the hotel, who is sitting in his room, and suddenly Shreen appears to him and thinks about the agreement between them, which is that he will not come close to the room again. She warns him that if he makes changes again, she will not leave him and disappear. Then the child with the blue ball appears and asks him to play with him, so Michael gets angry and pins him down. In the name of Marcoa, and then the child disappears, and Michael remains sitting in his place and crying. It's the end. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.